I am going to be talking about how I transitioned to veganism. Not veganism because I'm not a vegan. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Essentially Nikki. And today I'm going to be talking to you guys about how I transitioned to vegetarianism. So before we get into that video, welcome to all of my new subscribers, because that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna subscribe. Welcome if you're new to my channel. If you are new to my channel and you have not subscribed as yet, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. I'll wait for you to do that. Yeah. All right, great. So welcome to the family. For those who are returning, thank you so much for joining me again. So with that being said, let's get into this video. So also, disclaimer, I am not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. I do not have an MD in anything that I'm going to talk about today. Everything that I'm going to talk about with you guys today are just things that I have learned through my experience transitioning to vegetarianism. I would not prescribe anything for you. I am not going to tell you what you need to do. All the things that I'm going to talk about today are things that I have personally experienced. So, disclaimer, please don't come and get me, okay? So, if you see me looking this way, I do have my notes over here, so I'm going to be kind of going back and forth. So, first of all, what is vegetarianism versus veganism? So I've done a lot of research, I've done a lot of studies, I've read a lot of studies, I've watched a lot of documentaries, and basically, in a nutshell, veganism is the lifestyle of only consuming foods that are grown from the ground. Everything that they eat is strictly raw nuts. They don't eat eggs, they don't eat dairy. Eggs, because eggs come from chicken. Chicken is a breathing, living animal. They don't eat dairy. They don't eat any form of meat, including seafood. They do not eat seafood. So that is the key difference between veganism and vegetarianism. A vegetarian like myself, I still eat seafood. So that is the definition really between veganism and vegetarianism. And also, some vegans even take it to the extent of not wearing animal clothing because it is derived from an animal. So it's a complete lifestyle to live as a vegan. So the 6 essential tips that I want to talk to you about are just things, like I said previously, that I have experienced, that I have really learned about myself, and realized that these are the very things that really set the foundation for me to transition to vegetarianism. So the first thing is definiteness of purpose. So important. Definiteness of purpose. You want to ask yourself the question, why are you transitioning? Purpose really is the foundation of when you decide that you actually have a reason to do or make this transition. My initial purpose, honestly, was because I was fasting for Lent. I was really in a place, I'm very spiritual, and I was in a place where I was just believing God for a lot of things in my life. And so what I did was I decided that I was going to practice Lent, and I fasted from meat for those 40 days. So I typically just made sure that I strictly ate vegetables. I drank a lot of water, and I really just kind of monitored my intake of everything that I ate. So for me, the initial purpose for me was because I was fasting for Lent. So one of the key things to really keep in mind is that your purpose can change. I initiated this process because I was on a spiritual journey. I was believing God for things in my life, and that purpose changed after Lent. When I got to my 40th day, and I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of bummed that I that journey was over for me, because I had just changed so much mentally. My thought processes changed. I felt so much lighter in my body. I had so much clarity, mental clarity. I did not expect to experience the changes that I experienced. And that really just kind of caused me to ask the question, really, to myself, just because Lent is over, do I really have to stop fasting? I mean, maybe it's something that I can continue to do. And I got to that place where I realized and said, you know what? Why do I need to stop? If I'm loving what I'm doing and if I love the way this is making me feel, why not continue? And so I decided to continue. So the first essential key point to transitioning, I would say, is having definiteness of purpose. Really getting to the point of realizing, knowing, why do you want to make that change? The second thing, you can see my fingers. The second thing that was essential to my transition to vegetarianism was mental preparation. This is also extremely important because you have to mentally prepare yourself for this change. So prior to, I want to say maybe 30 days before I actually started Lent, I began to wean myself off of meat. And how I did that was I just slowly minimized the amount of meat that I ate every week prior to Lent. So typically in my household, we pretty much ate meat almost every night for dinner. Very rare did I make just a dish with strictly vegetables. So what we normally would eat would be like curry chicken. We would do curry goat, we would do oxtail, mainly chicken. As I mentioned in a previous video, my family is Jamaican. And so we typically ate a lot of traditional Jamaican dishes. And so what I did was I just slowly weaned myself off. So maybe that first week, instead of me eating chicken 7 days out the week or eating meat 7 days out the week, I ate meat maybe 5 days out the week. And then by the second week, I went down to 4. And by the third week, I went down to 2. And by that first week, I was able to actually go the entire week without eating any meat. And that's what really helped me to make that slow transition to not eating meat at all. Because I was so committed and I was so grounded in my purpose as to why I did not want to eat meat. And so that's why I say that definiteness of purpose is extremely important. And that really was the perfect segue for me to go into my mental preparation of making sure that I was mentally prepared for the changes that were going to happen within my body from me not eating meat. You definitely also want to prepare yourself by doing a lot of research. I did a lot of research on vegetarianism. I did a lot of research on vegetarian meals. I looked up a lot of replacement meals that were equivalent to the meals that I really love to eat, but without the meat. And I looked up a lot of meals that I can use as replacement meals or supplement meals that would help me throughout that journey. So I did that. I did a lot of research on the ingredients, on protein meals, all that good stuff. I just did so much research going into that process because, like I said, I was so grounded in why I wanted to do it that I did not want to make a mistake and I did not want to slip up. Mentally preparing yourself is also shifting what's called your hypnotic rhythm. And basically, it's you unlearning unhealthy habits to make room for newer, improved, healthier habits. So your hypnotic rhythm is basically your thought process. It's how you think, how you perceive things, how you perceive the influences around you. And so basically, I had to unlearn a lot of the things that I habitually did. So for example, like I said, we were a family that ate meat almost every day. That is a habitual habit. That was my hypnotic rhythm, that I believed that a meal was not complete unless it had some form of meat. That's a form of my hypnotic rhythm. And what I had to do was I had to unlearn that process. And that's what I did in weaning myself off by training my mind to realize that just because there's no meat doesn't mean that it's not a complete meal. At least for me. And that's what helped me to kind of remove this stigma of believing that I had to have meat with every meal. So that was also really important for me to do. Also, Something that I did when preparing my mental was I did a lot of research on gluten alternatives, dairy-free alternatives. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, boatload of YouTube videos, boatload of documentaries, just so that I can have a plethora of information and making sure that I had knowledge. Knowledge is leverage. And the fact that I took the time to do the research, it really allowed me to be a lot more comfortable in this transition. And it eliminated me making a lot of mistakes through this transition. And I did still make mistakes, of course, because I mean, everything we go through in life is trial and error. But I really did take the time to not make certain mistakes, and that allowed me a lot more time to be more intentional about the meals that I was preparing, the path that I knew that I wanted to go on. So the second thing, like I said, it's really important, is mental preparation. You have to be mentally prepared for a journey like this. The third thing, the third essential tip that I have for you is consistency. It is imperative that you are consistent in this process. Consistency is very much connected to your why and your mental preparation. So as you go through the process and you go through the steps of mentally preparing yourself for the changes that you are about to experience, these changes are going to come in your emotional state of mind, in your mental state of mind, in your spiritual state of mind, and in your physical state of mind. And so as long as you are in a place of consistency, it really allows you to evolve in all of those areas. It allows you to have more clarity in recognizing where your inconsistencies are, if that makes sense. So for me, the clearer your purpose and the stronger your mental preparation, the more determined you will be to being consistent. And that is so key, because when you have your foundation of your definiteness of purpose, and then you begin to build and you place that layer of your mental preparation on top of that, and then you slap on that consistency on top of it, you are really getting to a place of establishing strong foundation in this transition. So it was really important for me to be consistent through this process. The way I maintained my consistency a lot of times was meal prepping, and I'm going to talk more about that towards the end of the video. But consistency is definitely important. The fourth essential tip for transitioning to vegetarianism for me was accountability. A lot of us don't like that word. A lot of us kind of run from the concept of accountability. Accountability was the one thing that really kept me in check, even when I did not want to pay attention to those things, when I didn't want to focus on my purpose, when I didn't want to focus on all the mental preparation that I've been through and just me making sure that I'm trying to be consistent. My accountability was the thing that slapped me back into place. And it's really important, and it's a strong recommendation that you have an accountability partner, someone to hold you accountable to this journey that you have agreed to go on. Accountability is definitely key to staying focused. So my accountability partner was my husband. And so he did not go on this journey with me, but he was my biggest supporter. So there were times when I did want to slip up and I did feel like, okay, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, can I just have a piece of chicken, please? Like, just give me a leg, something. And he's just like, no. He's like, you made a decision that you were going to go on this journey and you have your reasoning for it. But he also reminded me that if you cannot commit this to yourself, how is it that you're able to commit to everybody else? And that's a whole nother video, guys, a whole nother video. But it really made me think like, oh man, he is so right. And I really just had to suck it up, and I did what I had to do. And that's the thing about change, especially change for growth, change in being a better person, anything that's gonna make you better, it's not gonna always be fun. You're gonna have your moments in the beginning where you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm loving this. I love the change. I love how I feel in my body. And you're gonna love all of that. But then your mental is gonna go back to, no, I wanna go back to where I was comfortable because I don't wanna do this anymore. And when you get to that place is when you need that accountability partner. Because when you're in that place, you're not going to want to think about your purpose. You're not going to want to think about the preparation that you've put into this process. You're just going to want what you want, because at that point you are craving it. And my husband was the one who said no, and he purposely stopped buying certain things because he knew that I was at that point of wanting to regress. And he intentionally stopped buying certain things so that I wouldn't regress. And that helped me a lot, a whole lot, because even now, I literally can buy anything under the sun in this house and it doesn't affect me anymore at all. So praise God for that. So the fourth thing, like I said, is accountability. Fifth essential tip for transitioning is patience. You have to be patient with yourself. This was huge for me because I am patient with everybody else except myself. So you have to keep in mind, a successful transition is just that.
A transition.
You never want to make a drastic change to your diet, because at that point you will send your body into shock. And eventually you will revert back to your old hypnotic rhythm. I honestly believe that it's not a thing of you will revert back to your old hypnotic rhythm and making those choices and operating in those old habits that you're trying so hard to unlearn. Because when you get to a place of wanting to do things haphazardly, you lose the ability to structure. You're no longer able to structure something that's functional for you. You only move on emotions. You only move on how you feel at that moment. And so that's why I say it's extremely important for you to be patient with yourself. Being patient with yourself and making the transition slowly. It's going to take time. You have to allow your body time to catch up to the changes. When I stopped eating like actual meat, like chicken and things of that nature, I saw the changes in my body, but it still took some time for my body to really adjust, because some people believe that, oh, well, you should have lost more weight than what you lost when you first decided that you were going to stop eating meat. Well, you know what? It didn't take me just 6 months to gain the weight that I had. So this was years of bad eating, bad practices, just living in this rhythm of feeling like I can eat whatever I want to eat and it wouldn't affect me. It's going to take, if not the same amount of time, double for your body to unlearn those habits in order to adapt and grow to these new habits. So that's why I say I cannot stress this enough. Be patient with yourself. Something that we really have to be mindful of is when we falter, when we give ourselves a challenge, or we make this declaration that we're going to make this change in our life and then we falter. It's not the end of the world. It's one thing to make a mistake. It's another thing to make that mistake and then set real estate in that mistake. We have to be patient enough with ourselves, and we have to be merciful enough with ourselves to know, you know what, I made a mistake, but you know what, it's okay. When I get up tomorrow morning, as Lisa Nichols, I don't know if you know of her, if you've listened to her, but she is a transformational, inspirational speaker, and she is absolutely amazing. Something that she mentioned in one of her videos is she said that when we make a mistake, we hit that reset button and you start all over again. And you just make your best effort to not make the same mistakes that you made the day before. And you get to a place of you recognizing your growth, and you recognize that, you know what, I'm not the same person anymore. I don't have to feel guilty about making a mistake. It's okay. So being patient with yourself, that's what that is all about. Understanding that you can make a mistake, you can make a blunder, and it's okay. We're just going to commit to ourselves tomorrow, and we're going to hit that reset button, and we are going to make the intentional decision to do better. So the last essential tip that I have for you is listen to your body. Super important. Listen to your body. No one knows your body better than you do. Your body naturally responds and reacts to things that we put inside of it. So with that being said, your body will respond and react to the changes that you are making. And you might find yourself using the bathroom more. You might find yourself, maybe your face is starting to break out. These are all common reactions. These are all common things that may happen. You might not have any reactions at all, but you might not physically see a reaction, but it doesn't mean that a reaction is not taking place. Because what's happening is that your body will begin to extract anything that your body should or needs to extract. That's what it's going to do. And it's going to extract those things from your system. And sometimes you might even have an allergic reaction to a food that maybe you've never tried before. Any of these things, if they cause any concern for you, I strongly recommend that you consult your doctor, consult your physician, consult your nutritionist. If you begin to experience any of these symptoms, or even before you go on this journey, you definitely want to consult your doctor or your physician, because you just never know how your body is going to respond. I'm going to be completely transparent with you. I did not seek a physician when I first started this journey. I did not call my doctor. I did not speak to a nutritionist. I did none of those things when I started this journey. For me, because this journey was never about my health, this journey initiated from my initial purpose of seeking God and believing Him for things in my life. So for me, there was no correlation to my health status to my spiritual journey. That might not make sense, but for me at that point in time, it did, because it wasn't even a thought for me. It wasn't about health for me. It was about the richness of my spiritual walk, is what that was for me. And so that's why I'm able to go back and think about some of the experiences that I've had. And that's why I can now say, consult your doctor, consult your physician, consult a nutritionist, just so that you do this transition and you do this transition as healthy as possible. So when I got to the place where I have reached the end of Lent and I made that conscious decision that I wanted to continue on this journey, that was when my purpose changed from me believing God for something to me just believing in myself. Me believing that if I can do this for 40 days and feel so good about it, why restrict myself from this blessing, from this happiness that I now have? And then my purpose began to shift from me searching for this spiritual richness in God to me really building and learning about myself and learning that I can commit to anything that I put my mind to. And it wasn't until later on down the line when it became more of a health conscious journey for me. That's when I also went from eating everything outside of meat to I currently am now living a gluten-free and dairy-free life as well. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So a few gems that I do want to drop for you guys based off of each key factor is just things that really helped me through this process. So the first thing that I talked about, the first essential tip, was having and establishing definiteness of purpose. And you might be asking, like, well, how did you do that? It's funny, and I don't know if you're like me, but I've watched a lot of videos and I've seen a lot of people give a lot of tips about things, but they don't tell you how to do it. They'll tell you, oh, you need to do this, you need to do A, you need to do B. And it's like, well, how do you do that? How do you get from where you are to doing A or doing B? And so that's what I want to share with you. So definiteness of purpose, that, in my opinion, is all about learning about you. Who are you? What do you love? What do you like? What do you dislike? What are your desires? Break down your definition of abundance and break that down into 4 categories. Break that down into your mental, into your emotional, into your spiritual, and into your social. A book that I want to recommend to you is a book by Brandon Hawk. It's called You. He really talked about how he had to learn himself before he can get to this place of happiness. And I was in a place of my wilderness at that point, and I was just seeking everything that I can find on happiness because I was so unhappy. And so I want you guys to look for this book, and it is an amazing book. And it really talked about the mental protectivisms that we have within ourselves and the very things that we fight so hard to disconnect from are the very things that we need to connect to tap into our mental and our heart and things that we hold within our gut and things that we need to release. He talked about identifying your role versus your purpose. After reading his book, I was able to detach myself from that title, from that role. And I realized that I have way more to offer than just being an educator. But I am first a child of God, and I have to put things in perspective and put things in their places. Again, that's a whole nother video. I'm really not trying to make this video long, guys. But I mean, the book is absolutely amazing. I strongly recommend that you get that book and read it. So that is how I was able to definitely tap into my definiteness of purpose by identifying who I was. And I did watch a lot of YouTube videos. I watched a lot of Michael Beckwith. I watched a plethora of Lisa Nichols. I mean, they're just absolutely amazing. They were pillars in helping me to identify my purpose. Also, another book that I strongly recommend for you. It's called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. He is where I got the concept of definiteness of purpose. Extremely necessary book to read. Again, it's called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And what I'll try to do is I'll try to make sure that I link these two books in the description box below, and you can find both of them on Amazon. The next thing is mental preparation. So again, something that I did for myself to mentally prepare myself was I meditated. I did a lot of meditation. Meditation has been really the most influential factor in my mental preparation to my transition. In all transparency, I did not meditate like every single day, and sometimes it wasn't the first thing I did in the morning, but I did take time aside to really get to a place of mindfulness to prepare myself for the changes. As I mentioned before, I began to develop a stronger connection between my emotional, my spiritual, and my mental. Meditation is just sitting in oneness. For me, I'm going to explain my definition of meditation. But for me, meditation is really just sitting in my oneness with God. Meditation is me just blocking everything else out around me. I am not focused or influenced by anything of my external influences or external circumstances. And I just sit in a place of Him. That's all I do. And that has really been a huge factor for me that really helped me to mentally prepare myself for the changes that I was going to go through. It definitely helped me to alleviate that hold on my hypnotic rhythm and really gave me the strength that I needed to unlearn those things without being so succumbed to the reaction of the unlearning process, if that makes sense. I mean, all of these things tied into this process for me. So for me, it was definitely a necessity for me to meditate. Not every day, but regularly, if that makes sense. I had my own system. You're gonna have your own system. And that system, whatever that system is gonna work for you. The next thing that really helped me to tap into the third essential tip that I talked about, which is consistency, is meal prepping. I mentioned this earlier in the video. So meal prepping has definitely been a foundation for me being consistent because, you know, I know for me, I did this a lot. I would wait until I was just like extremely hungry, where I'm starving before I decided that I was gonna get something to eat. And at that point, you don't even care what you eat at that point. You just need to get some food in your stomach. And that's when you are more likely to eat something unhealthy because you don't want to take the time to prepare something that is healthy. So what I did with my meal prepping, I would make my meals, I would prep them, and then once I prepped them, they were already in the fridge. If I had a showing that I had to go do on a Saturday morning and I'm, just say, hell, I'm not hungry, and then the minute I'm ready to walk out the door, hunger hits. I don't have time to sit down and eat. And so what I would do, I already have something in the fridge. I meal prep my breakfast, I meal prep my lunch. Get my food, take it out of the fridge, pop it in the microwave, nuke it, 30 seconds, a minute, minute and a half, and I'm out the door. So I'm able to eat something that is healthy, that my body needs, that is filling for me, and I'm saving money. I'm not spending any money on any fast food out there that's unhealthy for me, and then get to a place where within another hour, I'm hungry again. I mean, there are so many benefits to meal prepping. So for me, meal prepping definitely helped me to stay consistent. And so it also alleviated this idea of, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. What am I going to eat? What am I going to eat? What am I going to eat? I didn't even have to think about that. It wasn't a mental strain for me anymore to even decide what I was going to eat because the food was already prepared for me. It was already made. I didn't have to do anything. All I literally had to do was warm it up. So again, it does alleviate a lot of stress when you go through a transition like this. So consistency, meal prep. So the fourth thing, accountability. As I mentioned before, my husband was my accountability partner. So if he began to see me slipping, got me back in shape. Oh, no, baby, you're not doing that. Baby, you're not going to eat that. No, and he even got to the point where he would eat the meals that I made with me. That for me was huge because my husband is a huge meat eater, but he sacrificed his own desires to make sure that I was held accountable. So he would actually eat the meals that I would prepare, even if I didn't want it. And he's like, well, if I can eat it and I'm not even vegetarian, why can't you? All right, babe. Okay. Like, I mean, it really, really, really helped me. So, huge tip, get an accountability partner. The fifth thing that I mentioned, the fifth essential tip, was patience. And again, this was the one thing that allowed me to pace myself and taught me how to be patient through this transition. Something that I did was I celebrated all of my small victories. I celebrated everything. So if I went through a day, if I challenged myself one day and said, okay, I'm just going to do all vegetables today. I'm going to have vegetables for breakfast. I'm going to have vegetables for lunch, vegetables for dinner. I'm going to snack on dried veggies for my snacks. That's what I'm going to do. When I did that, even if I didn't make it through the entire day, if I did 3/4 of the day and I had that one slip up, I celebrated what I did, because what I did was a major improvement to me not ever doing that at all. So I celebrated all of my small victories and I was so proud of myself, and I did not seek validation from anyone for me to feel good about what I did, because my happiness, my internal happiness was enough validation for me. That was validation enough. I did not need anyone to come to tell me, oh, you're doing such a good job. I don't need you to tell me that. Now, if you're coming to me and you're holding me accountable like my husband did, then that's different. But I didn't need you to tell me that, oh, you're doing wonderful. I'm so proud of you. I don't need you to be proud of me because I'm proud of myself. And it was my own validation that I sought to make sure that I was doing what I needed to do. So for me, it was definitely celebrating those small victories and being so appreciative of how far I've come in comparison to where I was when I started the journey. So that is huge, huge, huge gem. Celebrate those small victories. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about was the sixth transition, and the gem that I have for listening to your body is learning how to listen. And the one thing that I began to do was I began to observe how my body responded when I did not eat certain foods. So, for example, after I conquered my transition of only eating seafood, I noticed how like bloated, fatigue, and symptoms of IBS would be more prevalent when I ate foods containing gluten. And when I consumed foods that were gluten-free, I felt much lighter in my body. I wasn't really bloated. I had so much more energy. I was in a better mood. I wasn't always influenced by my external situations. I mean, I did not realize how much my external, influences really affected the foods that I was putting within my body. And when I began to notice the difference in my body when I ate foods with gluten versus foods without gluten, that's when I began my journey towards gluten-free foods. And in me not eating gluten-free foods, I noticed that I am like barely, if ever, bloated anymore. Like I'm hardly ever bloated. I don't have any indigestion. And then because I was no longer eating gluten, it actually made it a very much easier transition for me to go dairy free, because I was already at a place where I was kind of dairy free already after doing all the research and learning about all of the alternatives to cheese, lactose free cheeses, things like that. that really did help me because I'm a big mac and cheese girl. I love macaroni and cheese. But now the cheese that I have has no lactose. There's no milk in it at all. So for me, I was just like, you know what? I can get down with this. I can do this. And so that was the one thing that really helped me and taught me how to listen to my body. And because I was listening to my body, that's when I realized like I need to go gluten-free. And when I started going gluten-free, I began to see other changes happening. And even in me incorporating my exercising and my meditation and things of that nature, everything just kind of began to come together. And I literally got to a place maybe a few months ago when I realized that I have literally made a complete lifestyle change. And I was absolutely dumbfounded when I really even thought about that concept, that I literally just changed my life completely. And so because of that, I am so much happier. So much happier. Things don't really affect me the way that they used to. I'm definitely in a constant state of gratitude, and I'm just so grateful that even in the things that don't go the way that I hope for them to go, I'm still grateful for it. Still grateful for it. So that is all that I have for you today. Just to recap, I'm not going to go through all of them, but I am going to just mention them again. So the 6 essential tips that I have for you are definiteness of purpose, mental preparation, consistency, accountability, patience, and listen to your body. Those 6 essential tips are what helped me to transition from being a full-on meat eater to a vegetarian. And I don't know if veganism is in the future for me. I don't know. But what I do know right now is that I'm extremely happy where I am. So thank you all so much for watching. If you are not subscribed, do me the honors of subscribing to my channel. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel. Also hit the notification bell because I do have more videos coming out for you. Look out for it. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit that notification bell. Also, please share, like, and comment on this video. Share your thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you have anything else that you would love to share about vegetarianism, about veganism, please put that in the comment section below. So with that, that is the end of this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.